Alien disclosure is imminent. A truth is immutable right up until it isn't. And how many truths are no longer immutable? Is the Earth still the center of creation? Do you really only use 10% of your brain? Are we alone in the universe? In the coming days and weeks, you will be presented with immutable information regarding the reality of extraterrestrial life and visitation to this planet. This will be done to further destabilize the social structure and help those who do not share your best interests usher in their great reset. These revelations will be shocking to many and will cause you to question your beliefs and examine your truths, which is exactly the intent. But never forget that these people are deceivers and cannot be trusted to present unquestioned truths. Before considering this any further, a brief history lesson is in order. The modern UFO phenomenon is generally regarded as having begun with the sighting of unidentified flying objects by a private pilot named Kenneth Arnold flying his aircraft near Mount Rainier in June of 1947. This sighting received extensive coverage in the press and brought the topic of UFOs into the mainstream of American consciousness. July of 1947 saw one of the most infamous UFO events take place with the reported crash and recovery of a flying disc by U.S. Armed Forces near Roswell, New Mexico. There were significant UFO flaps, a term used when there are large numbers of events, in the United States in the 1950s, 1970s, and Mexico and South America in the 1990s. But a little investigation will show that this phenomenon has existed for far longer than the half-century or so since the Kenneth Arnold sighting. There were the Foo Fighters of the Second World War. There were the airship sightings of 1896 and 1897. There was the 1561 celestial phenomena over Nuremberg, Germany, and so on. For an exhaustive look at the long history of the subject, I recommend the exceptional works of the American author Richard Dolan. This is not a new story. The point is, the phenomenon has been around for a long period of time, and has had the documented involvement of the governments from around the world since at least the 1940s. In the study of ufology, the term used by students of the phenomenon, the topic of disclosure is often discussed. Disclosure is based on the idea that secretive information about the reality of the extraterrestrial and UFO phenomena would be slowly released to the public in a manner that they can accept and digest. The Brookings Report is an off-cited document that was commissioned by NASA in 1960 as space exploration efforts began in earnest, with specific focus on a section entitled The Implications of a Discovery of Extraterrestrial Life that warned of possible impacts on societal structure and beliefs. The report discusses how leadership should handle information about the discovery of extraterrestrial life and the circumstances under which leaders may or may not find it advisable to withhold information from the public. The disclosure theory states that a carefully designed plan to indoctrinate the public to the reality of extraterrestrial life has been in place for many decades. It is interesting to consider the change in attitude toward the phenomenon in recent years. In the past, persons who reported experiences, be they sightings or other encounters, were ridiculed and belittled. Terms like conspiracy theorist or tinfoil hat were often used to keep the subject on the fringe of the absurd. But has that changed over the last several years? How many documentaries, TV series, and podcasts about the subject are there now? Why is the U.S. government, a body that has strenuously denied and debunked the phenomenon for half a century, suddenly coming clean with gun camera footage and reports? What has changed, and why is this point in time significant? And of course, let's not forget some of the more important questions when considering the history of the subject, like the level of involvement of governments, specifically in the United States. How long have they known this reality to be true? What empowers them to use the resources of the people to withhold and conceal this information? Have they ever made diplomatic contact with one or more than one of these extraterrestrial races? And before you reject that statement as out of hand, please do some research about the activities of President Eisenhower at Holloman Air Force Base in 1955. Things are not always what they seem. What about the work of highly competent scientists who spent decades researching and documenting the phenomenon only to be ridiculed and punished for their curiosity? What about the reality of the following? The Majestic 12, the secret space program, reverse engineering of alien craft from crash and retrieval efforts, Bob Lazar and the activities at Groom Lake, Area 51, the alien reproduction vehicle, the abduction phenomenon, the ongoing strangeness in the Hudson Valley in New York. You see, none of this is new. These beings have been here for a long time. They have been operating covertly for a long time. The only thing that has changed is how it is being presented and why this timing was chosen to make it acceptable. Think of this as shock and awe warfare to overwhelm your logic and force you to compromise your decision making. You will be presented with things that will seem unbelievable, but this is where you need to employ your tools of datum and measurement. Whether aliens exist or not does not affect the reality that you are a soul on a journey of learning and exploration. Will it change your belief in some immutable truths? Most certainly. Does it change what you are? Not at all. This material existence is not an illusion, but it is also not immutable. When this information is presented to you, it will seem overwhelming and uncomfortable, but change usually is. You are a being of light, a soul on a bold journey. You are stronger than you think, and you are more brave than you believe. This too shall pass, and always remember, the truth does not fear investigation. Only time will tell.